Today we have Dato Ong Eng, the former CEO of OCBC Malaysia. Dato Ong has been with OCBC for 35 amazing years, where he rose through the ranks from corporate banking officer to become the CEO of OCBC Malaysia in August 2014 till December 2022 that he retired. Join us as we explore Dato Ong's journey to the top with many challenges and learnings along the way. As usual, it's the challenges that makes us stronger, the pain and struggle that makes our story unique and beautiful. Enjoy the podcast. Please do subscribe and support us as we get more interesting guests on board. Dato Ong, thank you so much for joining us today at episode 4 of Alpha Wolf Stories. In this episode, we believe that our story shapes our life. Right, so whether is it when we were young, whether we were studying, and even in our early careers, right, shapes our beliefs. And we know that by you sharing your stories will inspire our listeners and ignite the way they look at their stories as well. So thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks, Alfred, for giving me the opportunity to say something.
Dato, just to kickstart, right? I always wonder, when you were young, right, did you ever had the ambition of becoming a CEO of an organization? Some people want to be fireman, policeman, right? Well, were yours becoming a CEO of an organization?
Actually, when I was 18, I wanted to be an Olympic champion.
Oh,
And you heard of this guy called Bruce Jenner?
The guy who...
Yeah. Because I was quite good in sports, I still hold a record in my school for short put.
Oh, sure.
After 45 years, I'm still the record there, okay? And I could run, I could jump, and I wanted to do that until my mom was very worried. So I didn't spend a lot of time studying that time.
Oh.
So fortunately, my dad had enough money to send me overseas to study my A-levels, and I sort of got a second chance to excel. But I was never really thinking like you want to be a CEO. It's more like, okay, I like this thing.
Yeah.
I like business. And I knew business is always about numbers, how to connect numbers.
Yeah.
So I sort of gravitated to accounting. And I studied accounting in Manchester University.
And earlier in our chat, you were sharing that you prefer to look 18 months ahead rather than looking like 5 years, 10 years ahead. Can you share a little bit more?
Because I think nowadays, gone are the days when people can project what's ahead, because the world is so volatile and all that. And even within yourselves, you do not know what could change.
Yeah.
So every time a staff comes to me and say that he wants to do something different, I said, why do you want to do that? Even if I convince you to stay this time, I'm not asking you to stay forever.
Yeah.
Always do a measurement, benchmarking the next 12 months. And if you are performing, the organization are rewarding you and you're learning as well, renew it for another 12 months.
Yeah.
And that's how we should always plan our career.
What would you advise managers or leaders who sometimes feels that, if I want to hire someone, I need to hire them for long term?
Of course, we always want people that have staying power. And staying power is demonstrated usually in CVs.
Yeah.
So if a person every year he's moving around, so you would know that has a higher tendency. Of course, people who stay longer term, they create stability. And an organization must have stability. At the same time, they also need a renewal of ideas and all that. And that comes from new people we hire. And I believe that sometimes an organization, people talk about culture, right? So culture is so important that culture can be only built when people start with you early. If people already established that they came from another organization, the different culture to OCBC, for instance, I still use a lot of OCBC. Because
Yeah.
you can take a person out of OCBC, but you can't take OCBC out of a person.
Wow. to all the OCBC employees listening to this.
So in a sense, culture is very important for any organization. I don't think it's just OCBC. We all want that. And you can develop the culture because people are more easy to embrace. But then you leaders, the more senior must embrace the culture and live it, and show it.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for that. Let's talk about growing up, Dato Ong. You grew up in Penang. Can you share a little bit about your family?
Okay, my family, my grandfather had a very big family, nine kids.
Wow.
So he had a very big house after the war. So he built a very big house, very nice. In fact, it's an Art Deco building, and it even featured in one of the Malaysian architecture.
Oh, where? Which part of Penang?
It's along Northern Road. In fact, I have it actually.
It's still with your family, the house?
Yeah. And I remember it had all the types of things I could buy. My grandmother was a farmer's daughter, from Fujian province. So she turned the whole house into a garden, like a farm.
Oh.
So we had coconut trees.
Wow.
We even have the, tamarind tree.
Okay.
What do you call that? Tamarind, Assam.
Yeah.
So it was very nice, and there were a lot of kids around, so we had a lot of fun. Of course, I had a personal tragedy, family tragedy. My father had an accident, and he was paralyzed. But in a sense, I think I look back, because he was paralyzed, he was mostly at home. So I got to spend more time with him. Because in the past, he was always traveling in the business. So, but he was a very smart guy, and he could, despite his handicap, he could still continue to have a business, which was very successful. And he was able to build and, send us overseas to study.
Yeah. So he was very. What age were you when that happened?
I was only 1.5 years old.
Oh.
My sister was 3 years old.
And you grew up seeing the resilience in your dad? Never giving up.
Of course, he was always very frustrated because when you're a young man, he was only 29 when he had the accident, and he passed away when he was 45. But in a sense, I can see that those days, you don't let certain things pull you down. He also wanted to make himself useful, and he was working. Hybrid lah. Today's called hybrid lah.
Working from home.
Yeah. He was working about 6 hours. Because he have to lie down, so he'll stand up, he'll sit up and work for 3 hours. Then he'll rest and then stand up. So he was doing this kind of things that even before hybrid was the norm.
So you were always visit him, have a chat with him, and
I mean, I still today. The famous businessman in Penang, the late Loh Boon Siew, he even admired my father. So, but unfortunately, things do happen. Well, we learned to overcome it. And even my mom, she's someone who actually taught me a lot of things. She had a lot of patience. Imagine if your husband is...
Yeah.
And she really could not travel anywhere. When she went to the fortune teller one day, the fortune teller told her, you will travel a lot of places. Then he said, how can, I can't even leave the house for 2 hours, because I've got to come back. But in the end, after my father passed away, she actually traveled the whole globe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she had a chance now. Now she's 85. She still drives.
Nice. And she's still in Penang?
Yeah. That's why I think I still go back. I love Penang. I'm very... closely associated with everything Penang. If you go to my house, you'll find all kinds of books about Penang.
Oh, will you really retire retire or settle down in Penang?
No, I think because we also have ties here.
Okay.
But it's important to build new ties here and connect with the existing. At the same time, don't lose your common touch and your roots. So I go back, like this month alone, I go back to Penang probably 5-6 times.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a five-fly frequent flyer.
Oh yeah, because Subang, right, very near.
Yeah.
Dato, you mentioned that one key thing that you learned from your mom is patience, right? And how do you see that reflecting or in your life growing up?
I think she was a very meek person. She doesn't like too much situation where people build tensions, and it can happen in any family. Yeah. So she's always like the peacemaker. So everybody has only good things to say about her lah. Yeah. Of course, I inherited my father's genes of sometimes very impatient, very always voicing opinions. But one thing I realized, impatient is one thing, but when it comes to certain things, you try to pull yourself back a little bit before you make any decisions. I think that's quite critical. In career, I always say that you need to invest in your career, partly because you are earning a lot of deposits.
Yeah.
If you're doing well, you're earning a lot of goodwill deposit.
Yeah.
Build on that within the organization you are. Because sometimes you may not always have a good run.
Yeah.
But the positive deposits will help you to survive. Yeah. And then while you're working along that path, always continue to build friends. I'm not asking you to be political.
Yeah.
But it's more like being nice to everybody so that people know that, if you go up, it's someone I can work with. Yeah. In fact, when I was I think one of the things that people look at is that if this guy is CEO, can you work with him or are you going to leave? Because there's a lot of time is like this.
Yeah.
But be someone that people feel that they can work with you. Because today, in this day and age, you cannot achieve success alone.
Yeah. And it reminds me of your sharing of one of the biggest reason you left PwC to join OC was because your manager...
Partly that,
right?
partly that, and also partly because of the money.
Yeah. You say OC, even at back then, was offering...
When you are trying to survive, I think pay is important. But don't be chasing after pay alone. I have always advised a lot of young executives because today, I think pay scales in banking is not that low.
Yeah.
People get moved up quite fast. But I just say always learn to live below your means. Meaning that because if you're always spending at a certain level, you will always be compelled to go for a better pay. And that gets you to make decisions that are not always wise because somebody offers you something better.
Can I will play the devil's advocate, right? Because when a lot of young people that I come across with, when I share with them this advice, they will say things like, but Alfred, life is short. YOLO, right? You only live once. So if I don't spend now, right, how will I know,
Yeah. But
how would we advise them?
I would say that, let's say anybody who's 25 years old, I said today, the retirement age is 60. So you got at least 35 years to work. Yeah. Okay. Most important is you are going to have a 35. Of course, a lot of people say that they want to retire by 50. Yeah. Actually, to be honest, I wanted to retire at 50 because I'm simple. I have a simple life.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So a lot of people say that but never do one. It will never happen.
Yeah.
Because I think you need to keep yourself busy. So you just do it in a different form. So in that being the case, if you keep jumping and jumping, you will not learn too much. Even youngsters, I will advise them to work at least 3 years in an organization. Number one, let's say when people first hire you, you think about first principles. Number one, if you're a fresh grad, you work for somebody, you're just learning. People are just investing in you.
Yeah.
Probably you learn, you're just absorbing for the first 18 months. Yeah. Then the next 18 months, hopefully you have start contributing. So by that time, you can tell the organization we are even. 3 years. So when you go to another place, at least I said, I've done my part. They taught me, I gave back. We're even, I can move on. And then people look at your resume, they'll say that, oh, this guy, okay, at least he stayed 3 years. It's quite stable because today organizations do not expect the staff to stay forever.
Yes.
So 3 years seems all right. If you change job every 3 years, I think they can accept that, especially young people. Yeah. So I think that itself would be the advice I give to people. And don't peak too early. Don't go for pay alone. I mean, it's easier said than done. But I believe that you get wiser and wiser over the years. So, I mean, I in the National Geographic, they showed a teenager's brain, right?
Yeah.
And they say it's wired differently.
Oh.
So you can tell them this, but it just don't register with that. so that's a reality.
Yeah. So Dato Ong, you were with OCBC for 35 years. I'm sure during this 35 years period, there were many offers from competitors, from different industry. But what kept you with OC throughout the years?
Okay, I guess I still feel that I'm always learning. OC has always been transforming. It was a very conservative company because it came into being during the Great Depression. But over the years, they realized, after 50 years, they realized that they have to change because competitors are catching up. They were actually number one in terms of banking in Singapore and Malaysia. But over time, competitors sprung up. So they need to change and they started hiring outsiders. So that's when I actually joined OC. I joined OC in 1988.
Okay.
That was the time that there were a lot of new things. We had many different CEOs. Everyone brought something new. So I learned a lot from that. So it's like, instead of jumping from one organization to another, you actually see your organization transform. And one thing is that they do recognize people who stay and contribute. Okay. So whenever there was an opportunity, but also make sure you put your hands up and to be seen. So, and I always believe that if you are interested in something, you will do well.
Yeah.
I was very interested in corporate banking. Even today, corporations, I love the way, they're never stationary. They're always doing something different. Just that it fascinates me. So I was very interested in how business work and all that. So I felt that itself helped me to remain in OCBC because they gave me a lot of opportunities.
So one thing I'm here is that you stayed with OCBC because of the continued opportunity that was given, and you see that the bank was continued to evolve, right?
Yeah, but remember that sometimes in 35 years, it's sometimes like that. Yeah. So you learn to stay, being patient is one important thing, I feel, because you can see a lot of people come and go. Yeah. But if you're still around when everybody has left, you can still go up.
On that note, right, so very, very good. I like that point, right? So in the times, especially when times are down, right, then the temptation come, right? A competitor offered you something, a nice package, right? What kept you? I mean, I think you answered it just now, right? If you were to stay during a difficult time, when a bank comes back up, you will be the first one, right? But any other advice would you give to someone who is facing similar opportunity or temptation, right? I mean, they feel they like their current company, right? But this is a downtime for the current company. Maybe some of them, they say that I know that my bonus won't be high this year. The company didn't do well. And there's an opportunity that comes from a competitor. But they know they prefer staying put. What would you advise someone like that?
I would say that important is the person's own position. Because if you have a good supervisor and you feel that this company may be having a tough time, but they are not broken, there are nothing very, very seriously wrong about their business and all that, I think it's worth staying But of course, certain people, because of the financial demands or what temptations, people will just go for it. So I think today I realize that young people, because maybe of the generation, they feel that loyalty is not always rewarded. And it's an old school thinking. And experience and is what it is important to them. So I think organizations have learned to accept that. In fact, some very successful organizations, they have this two-tier type of they take good care of their seniors because the juniors will come and go, but the seniors will be like the anchor. So I think there are people that we recruit out of 20 management trainees that we hire each year. Maybe 5 years from then, there may be only 5 left. Some of them will stay a long time. Some will move on, and some may even move on and come back again.
I knew one OCBC management trainee stayed for 35 years.
No, there are always temptation to move. Also myself, we are all human. But I think important is that you try to get a third-party view, somebody who doesn't have a vested interest. And as you get older, I think talk to your spouse, because there's nothing like they call free lunch or free dinner or whatever. If they pay you for something, you will have to do more things. So you have to give up something. Even if you are promoted, you have to give up something. So let's face it. So it's what you want. Money at a certain level becomes not so important from a perspective for you really start to value freedom, time, ability to do other things. So a lot of people have a lot of money, but they just don't. So they end up like doing a lot of funny stuff, buying this, buying that, Yeah. So that's a bit sad.
So do you had this realization even at a young age in 30s that you had a realization that money is not everything, and time with family or freedom, right? Social work.
You ask my staff, they will tell you that I always advise them, live below your means. Because I have this motto that in the world today, why the economy is in such a problem, because people are spending until their reserves run out. So when the economy hits, they really have nothing. So I'm firmly a person who believes, number one, you buy a car, you don't take a loan. You buy a cheap car. I drive my wife's 5-year-old Hyundai. Doesn't matter, but I don't owe anybody money. So you can continue spending money during tight times. And if you do that, you find that the economy will be more stable, because people don't like super exuberant. Then suddenly everybody cuts back. So nowadays people expect government to do that, because individuals ran out of money. But if individuals are resilient, and that's why we always in our consumer business, we try to encourage people to save money. Easier said than done, because I have 2 young children. I have not young children, I have children also. It's that kind of habit is not easy to inculcate,
But I'm sure they have that habit of spending below their means.
No, I think a lot of I'll be happy if they spend within their means. But of course, to be honest, I think you only start saving, serious saving, when after 10 years. When you have enough buffer, I think you can do. So I always try people to do that. And I'm going to say a lot of things that maybe a lot of people may not agree. I say, I until recently, I only have one house. I don't go and buy properties all over the place. Because what's the point? I feel that you just get yourself so busy in all these kind of things. So you find you have a lot of flexibility, control over your money. Otherwise, you get into debts and all that. So in a way, it's a message people say, oh, no, like, you got to invest in property so you can make more money and all that. But I believe that you should also control certain things, because property for probably the last 7 years have not made a lot of people. A lot of people have become broke because of over-investing in property.
It took too many loans and...
Property developers may not like me that much.
But shares, are you a share person?
I think I have more freedom now to buy shares after I've retired. And I always like to study, analyze company. But I'm a very old school, like Warren Buffett type value investing. So it will take a long time for some of these stocks, but I believe in stability.
Same. I like that too. Right? I think I read a book by Warren Buffett say, it's paint the wall and you sit there and watch the paint dry. And value investing is all about time.
Yeah. And also he also said one thing about like make the market your friend. So let's say you like this company, analyze the company, like it, and the market could be unfriendly to everybody, including the company that you've invested. So when times are negative on the whole industry, make it your friend and invest, because there's an opportunity to pick up shares when it's gone out. So things like that. So fundamental, but again, it's a very old school thought. But I'm old school.
I think a lot of theories will always go back to the fundamental, and I think these are the fundamentals, like spending below your means, right? Value investing. It's not sexy, right? But it's there. It will pass through times and generation.
Yeah.
Dato Ong, you studied in a Methodist boys' school. You were prefect. Were you a head prefect?
No, because I left after Form 5. But I was a prefect for 2 years because prefects are sort of selected in 4th and 5th and then continue. I had a good and bad time as a prefect. The privileges of having your own room, prefect's room, to have your rest.
What's the bad?
Catching your friends. And I once caught somebody who was used to disturb me until I became a prefect. And I actually caught him and I felt really bad because he got the worst caning ever. I actually felt sorry. But I think prefect also, in a sense, taught you certain things, that how important discipline at school can lead on in life. Because there are certain set things that you got to do, the way you dress, the way you conduct yourselves, and just simple thing of coming to school on time.
Yeah.
Because we will always catch those people who come late, right?
So a lot of prefects somehow instill some discipline, compliance. That could be a prerequisite to enter into OCBC. Were you a prefect?
No.
Dato, you did your bachelor in accounting and finance in University of Manchester, right? How many years were you there?
I was 3 years in Manchester and 2 years I did my A-levels. But I'm not a Manchester United fan.
Okay, so you support which team?
In fact, I'm not a football fan, but I do follow. I know England lost for the second time.
But Dato, you mentioned that you shared earlier that you were very athletic when you were younger.
Yeah. I like athletics a lot, but it stopped when I sort of went to university. Today, I think I keep myself so-called fit. I don't think I'm that fit. Just walking. Because I find that, again, goes back to the connection. Because I walk in my neighborhood and meet a lot of my neighbors, know what's happening. And I'm a cat lover. So I always walk around with
cat food.
Tumbler of dry cat food. So I will feed cats along the way. And it makes... There's something I can do after I retire.
Before retire, do you have time for morning walk?
Seldom because I used to go to leave office for office 7:15. Yeah. So that's one of the things that made me want to retire by age 60. Everybody should work until they're 60. and not a second longer.
Dato Ong, you were heading the credit and marketing before joining the corporate banking, and then large corporate, and then you became the head of business banking. Was it always an upward growth for you?
It is, but it's a slow upward growth.
Okay.
That period of time, you sort of gain experience because, and OCBC is a place where they watch you for a long time, and then they're comfortable. Then you get opportunities along the way, I think if you are always there contributing, you will somehow get noticed, That's how I feel, I mean, you don't deliberately look for it.
Yeah.
I just remember when one day my then CEO wanted to promote me to be a SVP, I said, it's okay, it's all right. No need. I don't know why I said that, but actually in my heart, I said it's not necessary. But he wanted to do it, and that's one of the reasons he actually told me when the job of CEO was offered. I actually consulted him because he left then, so he told me, he said, you should take on the job, because he took on the job and he learned a lot. And most importantly, he said that he could actually help people to succeed, promote people, give them opportunities and all that. So that's on that reason I actually took up the CEO post. And I think I had that. I can say that the next person, if they say, oh, they are offered as CEO, I say don't go in because of the ego. But of course, as you get to the job, your ego will come in, right? But you have to control it. You don't change. Some people are very stern, like for instance, they go into a lift, they instruct the guard to hold the lift for them, and nobody comes in and nobody dares to come in.
Yeah, special leave maybe, yeah.
The mark of a CEO should be someone that they are seen approachable, because today in an organization, you need to get voices from everybody. And if you are seen as an approachable person, it's so much easier to get information. The reason why I used to go to office very early, because I want to be in the office by 8, so that if anybody, I reserve time before the 9 o'clock meeting, so that people have anything to see me, they know that there's always a 1 hour slot. They can always so be very open, because that's where you get the pulse of the what's happening.
Yeah. And where do you think you get that from, right? Was it a previous CEO that you saw, that you admire their leadership style?
Not really, but I guess you learn from all kinds of mentors. Some people you learn from them not to be like them.
Yes, yeah.
And then okay, if I'm a CEO, I want to do something different, or I should not behave like that, and stuff like that. But actually, I learned a lot from one. When I was 2 years into my job, I was thrown into Johor Bahru, the so-called cowboy town there, and actually learned the most there. I enjoyed my time there also, because it was really like branch banking.
Okay.
You would be sitting in a branch and people will be coming in and out, talking to you. And my branch manager, he was a very interesting guy. Those days, branch managers are like the mafia boss.
Very, very full of a lot of authority.
They want to control everything. That means customer must know I'm the one to see.
Oh.
Okay, then I'm in control. But this manager was very different. He always empowered people. One day he called all of us, the heads of the branches. He said, the best branch manager is the most useless branch manager. I still remember. I said, what do you mean, Mr. Ang? I said, I want you all to be able to function even I'm not around. And then we get the message.
Yeah.
And then he will tell me, every time I was sent to Johor to build up the business, because Johor that time was like booming. So a lot of Singapore investments, foreign investment. That time, the Johor state was like very vibrant. Today, I think it's still vibrant, but the time it was just like coming up. And we wanted to build a corporate banking business there. And I remember, because we are so, all of the trainees eventually were posted to the branches. So I remember some of the trainees who went to the branch, they said, my boss wants to go everywhere, man. But this boss was different. He said, you go lah, you go, you can see the customer yourself.
Wow.
In a way, it's sometimes a bit unearthing.
Yeah.
But so you have to learn. So you become able to make decisions. But he always helped me. Like for instance, I would go to him and say, Mr. Ang, this loan got problem in HQ. They don't approve.
Yeah.
Then you pick up the phone and talk to, come lah, okay lah, this one. So in a way, he empowers you. And that's where you learn to make decisions. And over time, customers, when they come into the branch, they will come and see me. Because I can make decisions. I don't have to see Mr. Ang or things like that. So I think we should empower people. Because that's where they learn, and try to empower them early. Because if they make mistakes, it's likely to not be so serious a mistake. And that's where they learn and grow.
Yeah. What would you advise a young leader, right, struggle with this, because it's not easy for some leaders that we come across. They feel that I'm afraid to delegate or I'm afraid to empower because it will still fall back to me.
I think you learn to build trust over time. You don't simply empower for the sake of empowering. But once you have a clear trust with somebody, observe the person. So I think observation is very critical, and occasionally take some chances. Because they always say leaders, you must be able to spot gems within your people. And Lee Kuan Yew and Goh Keng Swee and all these people are, why Singapore is so successful? Because they have some leaders who have spot on. They can know, okay, this is the person I want to pull into the organization. Just like, in fact, one of our CEOs, Dr. Tony Tan, he recently wrote a book. He was handpicked to go into politics. He had to sacrifice a huge pay, but he could benefit. So it's like, sometimes it's not just about money, but it's about the positiveness of helping people. Because money by itself, if somebody give you a bonus today, you're so happy with a bonus, the next day you forget it already. But if you really help people, I think it's very good for the soul,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a soul
Dato Ong, on that note, right, what's your secret of identifying gems?
I think
What do you look at?
sometimes you gamble. Like I'm very happy to say that in OC, two of my people that I hired fresh from school, after the Asian financial crisis, today, one is the head of corporate banking. He's now close to 30 years in OCBC, 20 something. And then another one is head of China business. So, in a sense, people say that they stay not because of the organization, but they stay because of their leader.
Yeah.
But at a certain stage, they also know that up to a certain point, they've already built so much positive goodwill. You need that kind of thing to but at that point in time, you take chances. And there may be people who are better than them, but they don't have the staying power. They're impatient, they move on. So these are the indications that sometimes you stay longer, you be recognized.
So one of the gem that you look at is staying power.
Yeah.
Right? Someone that's committed, and your willingness to stay on is something that identify, okay, this is a potential leader.
Yeah. I mean, in life, you don't always have successes. You make a lot of mistakes. More importantly, that your successes, your hits are a lot more than your misses.
Dato Ong, you shared that in this period of 35 years, right, from corporate banking, and then you became the CEO, they were always up and down, right? Even in business. What are some advice would you give someone facing a period of low growth for their business?
I do tell them that if you are working well with the team, because the team will have times where everybody struggles. But it's more meaningful that you all stay together because sometimes you are the jigsaw that holds the whole thing together. And I believe that at a certain stage, if you're a leader, you must look beyond yourself. And you are the gel that holds the team together. And if you move or you do something, everybody's going to follow you. So you could destroy a business and all that. But having said that, I think you got to look at every situation. It's all different. If you're working well with your bosses, the most important thing, number one, is the organization or your direct supervisor still trust you. And if they do, this is already a positive. It's just that everybody's going through a difficult period of time. I have years where there's no bonus.
Oh.
So everybody is suffering the same way. Maybe even outside is the same. So you stay on, and hopefully when the tide turns, you're still there. Like I say, it goes back to that kind of resilience.
Yeah.
And that's what we look for in individuals and also customers. Customers and you can only do that if you feel that, money is not the only thing. When you talk about difficult times, it's always like, there's no increment, there's no promotion, and there's no bonus. So everybody is like, very gloomy. But if you are not pressed financially, I think you have more staying power than others. That's why this being careful and conservative about your finance.
Yeah, spending below your
reserves is very, very important. That's how companies use that opportunity to acquire. Because if you conduct yourself well, you don't overexpand, then when opportunities come, you go to the bank and say, hey, I see this opportunity. Yes, I've heard. In fact, I've known of one company. They actually told the bank about the bad news. But because they've always conducted them well, during the worst time, they actually asked the bank for more money and the bank gave them more money. So I think we ourselves, we work in a financial institution. So likewise, we are any company. The last thing you want to do is tell your staff that you have to go. Is staff will appreciate that, okay, this year no increment, no bonus, but all of you still have a job. And really going back to loyalty and all that is very, very important. So the last 3 CEOs in OCBC has been outsiders in Malaysia. I'm an insider. I've always valued internal people. Not to say that I don't trust outsiders, but I feel that, if we all go together, I think we can be very strong. So I also have this tagline that says, OCBC Malaysia is about ordinary people coming together, working closely to do extraordinary things. So it's another tagline to say that, hey, we can do it. And I think that also builds loyalty.
What would you advise an entrepreneur who's going to a period of low growth?
I think number one is relook at your business. Because a period of low growth is also a period to look internally, re-engineer. Sometimes it's also an opportunity to collaborate with people, because when you're strong, you think that you don't need this, don't need that. But when you suddenly confronted with issues, you start to look at all the various alternatives. So I think a leader or entrepreneur or any businesses today will always have to face this, because we face global issues. You face regulations, and you face a lot of competitors today that they are not really like trying to make money because they believe that they can build certain things that is more valued.
Yeah.
So they can be loss-making for 5 years. They just want to get into your business.
Yeah.
And previously you're making money and suddenly you're hardly making money because these guys are throwing away everything, So that period of time is staying power again. Yeah. Number one is how to learn from them. What are the things that they are able to do? So I think every situation, the test of our entrepreneur is how you actually go through and re-engineer, have new ideas. So that's why I think most of the folks that I know today, they view networking so important. I recently joined one group. I just gave a short talk there, and I realized that they themselves create a network where they help each other. They learn from each other because they're all in different businesses. So I'm glad that nowadays there is more opportunity for entrepreneurs to share ideas and to learn. They can learn from things like the podcast and all that. So nobody can say that they are ignorant. They have no opportunities to learn. There are plenty.
Nice. So what the key theme I hear is staying power, and also in a period of low growth, whether is it business or even in personal, nothing beats learning. It's time to look inside and then to learn. We come to the last part, right, Dato Ong. In 2014, you were appointed the CEO of OCBC Bank Malaysia. I want to bring you back at 2014. How was it like? What happened? What was the emotion? Who was the first person you called when you received that offer?
To understand the context, in what happened in that few months.
Yeah.
And that few months, our chief of risk retired. Okay, he wanted to care for the wife. I think our consumer head resigned, and of course the CEO also resigned. Wow. So at that point in time, my first thoughts was stability, right?
Yeah.
Stability, right? Don't something is not going right now. We got to preserve our people. So a lot of things that I did during that time was talking about how to preserve everything. But one thing I think somebody told me, because at that point in time I said, okay, I should stay. I should be the anchor. I was very happy doing what I was doing, actually, to be honest. But somebody told me this. He said, Eng Bin, if you don't move up, your people cannot move up. They will be impatient, So do it for the organization. And that was, it sounds very altruistic, but I actually didn't want the job. Because, okay, people may say, what's the reason? Because sometimes in foreign banks, a lot of decisions are made in the headquarters. So as CEO, you're doing a lot of coordination, but a lot of key decisions sometimes is made there. So I felt that, but of course, there were certain promises and said, okay, we're going to empower you more. Just like it all boils down to empowerment. Yeah. If you don't empower the CEO, forget what you hire the person for,
Yeah.
And likewise, you should empower the young people to do something and then that gets them excited. So I think at first I was not interested. Then I was nervous because I know I was being considered. Then I don't know whether it could be an internal, because there were also external people lobbying for this. Yeah. I remember going for a few interviews with, the chairman and all that. Yeah. And the interview session was moved several times, making you even more nervous. I'll meet you now. But I was quite excited because number one, somebody said also is that you're always doing the same business. How about insight into other business? Of course, being the senior management team, you got some insight, but it's nothing like really making key decisions, involving them and all that. So I was keen to learn something like that because my predecessor actually told me, hey, I learned a lot also.
Yeah.
So go for it.
And what was the fear? So other than not maybe controlled by HQ, is there any other personal fear that comes in mind? Were there any self-doubt?
Not really.
Oh.
But of course, during that time, getting to engage with, sometimes, one of the key challenges or key success of a CEO is how you work with the board, the chairman and all that. That can make or break a CEO, put it this way. So the initial years was not that easy, but like I say, I persisted because sometimes you have to have a lot of humility to actually sometimes swallow your pride, because you try your very best, and sometimes people say that, okay, you're not doing, they want certain things done, and you don't really think that is the right thing to do. I mean, I won't go into too much details, but you can outlast even some
board members or chairman.
So things like that.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge that you can recall the first few years becoming the CEO?
I think certain businesses that I was not really involved in, they were doing well, but at some stage they felt that it was going too fast.
Okay.
So to stop a business that is doing well and say that, okay, you should stop it, I think, and discourage a lot of people. And so I always believe in this, which I always tell seniors, is credit risk is something that all of us can recover from. If you too aggressive in certain business and all that, then you make losses. That's something we can recover. But if you do something that destroy your franchise, that means you stop doing a business. One of the things that will happen is even your own people stop believing you, that you're serious about this business. And they will all leave. And then they won't come back. And the market will know as well. So I said, franchise risk is more dangerous than credit risk. Credit risk, we can all recover. I mean, all the banks have made losses from all kinds of companies, right? But they're still performing. But once you lose you have this franchise, your partners, your collaborators, your people that you work with, the external parties, they also give up because life continues. You don't want to do this, never mind. There are 20 other banks who would like to do this business. So you can't come back to the party anymore, so-called. So that's what I always tell myself. And one of these challenges that I faced was that especially during COVID, business was almost like ground to a halt. I mean, all banks were more careful, but they didn't grind to a halt. But I think I wasn't able to do some of these things. But so I focus on what we can do best. Like, for instance, just like what happened, when you can't do this, what do you do? So we focus on improving our financial, and I can very happily, I always say, 2019, before the COVID crisis hit, we had the McKinsey, the world famous, come and do some work for us. And we came up with this motto: in 5 years, we wanted to be the most profitable foreign bank. That was the thing. Then when COVID hit, we couldn't use any of this because this was certain things that we want to do, but we can't do. But we focus on what we could do. And when I retired in 2022, we became the most profitable foreign bank. Although we didn't hit the numbers and all kinds of things, but at least I can say that, okay, you can still do certain thing and you can still achieve it. So in a sense, you make do and you survive. And, like I say, you are always competing, sometimes with yourself also, and make people proud.
So in your 14 years as CEO, would you say the COVID period was one of the most challenging period? Or there were earlier period that were more challenging?
I think COVID was challenging from a perspective. It's a big unknown. It's a very big unknown. In fact, one of the most things that we could do, because our head office is very near to Masjid Jamek and that particular area. That became a red zone,
Oh.
And can you believe it, at 3:30 in the afternoon, the health guys said, because there are so many cases in our vicinity, they said your building have to be vacated. You have until midnight to vacate this building, or you stay in the building for 2 weeks. So we scramble, and I must thank all the team, for the operations team, the technology team, the security team, everything. We scrambled, and we were able to find a place for about 600 people.
Wow.
In various buildings. And we were very worried because we also have offices in Wisma Lee, which is just across the river. But very fortunate, like I say, when you do good things come back to you, Because at that point in time, we were worried that our security guards were going to be badly affected if they go out to buy food. So actually, we raised a lot of money to buy food for them so that they can be self-sustaining. And the food was kept in our canteen. And during that period of time, even though nobody could work in the building, we still need to have security people walking around, right? So once the security is inside there, they cannot come out. So how do they survive? The fact that we actually had about 1 month's supply of food for them helped them to survive.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the security was the only department that stayed in for 2
because
weeks.
they have to make sure that there's no electric trip, whatever.
data,
The computers still got to run, the mainframes got to run and all that. So it was quite a crazy time.
Interesting. What about the biggest achievement? I mean, you did share that, one of your biggest achievement was to be the number one foreign bank. Can you share any other projects that you did in your 14 years that you very close to your heart?
I think when I became the CEO, I had some empowerment to do certain things which I couldn't do as a division head. I was always very passionate about CSR, giving, but you could not influence other departments if they are not really keen, right? Yeah. But actually, when I became the CEO, everything happened. And people start to see CSR as something that is good for everybody, bring people together, and at the same time, it's a form of branding. The branding that you're an organization that also cares. I mean, of course, nowadays, a lot of organizations also do that.
And this was before ESG and all.
The difference is actually the organization gives, but the staff gives, and the CEO gives. So we had things like, which I started, which was something that quite interesting. As a corporation, you receive all kinds of hampers, right? Yeah. Chinese New Year. Yeah. So nowadays, if you go and return the hamper to them, the customer will feel insulted, right? So what do you do with the hampers, right? So we actually do an auction every time. So all the hampers that I receive, we auction it off. So I could receive something like 30 hampers. And I'll have my corporate comm head. He's a very good auctioneer, right? Yeah. So we put the price tag and all that. And I tell the division, I'll say, the management team, you got to come and support. Okay? Now, the beauty is that for everything that you auction, okay, I will double up the same amount. That means you bid 5,000, I'll put 5,000. And that means you then have 10,000. That 10,000 will go to your division for your own CSR activities. So we did that almost for the whole tenure of as a CEO. And it was really fun. Everybody was really excited. Yeah. Some people overbid, because it's that time when they're about to get their bonus, so everybody is generous, right? So things like that. So, things like that where it's fun and all that. So I hope that it stays on. Because an organization, doing more, making more money, is the next year is be more targets. But I think we want to have a human face to organizations, caring, giving, because we always talk about the tagline of OCBC, help the community succeed. And we actually did that in a big way. Fortunately, I had a lot of support from the board. They feel that, it should be a bank-wide thing. Nice. That means head office does it, branches do it. And then we also do a lot of volunteerism. That means you don't just give money, but you also give your time. And I think that still continues. So in a way, I would say that it's hopefully my legacy, which I try to leave behind.
Very nice, because it's not just about what the company is doing, it's also you are inspiring the individuals in the company, right? So when they start giving or when they start volunteering, then they realize it's something that I like doing. Then they do it on their own time and they give on their own.
And sometimes when you help other people, you realize that how lucky you are. I always say that we are so blessed. I mean, in the financial industry itself is so blessed because we have regulations. We complain about regulations, but the regulations have protected us, and we should be so happy that we didn't have anyone. We didn't retrench anyone, and we restored. Although I think there may be. We didn't even freeze salary, or maybe we only froze the salary of the seniors. So everybody should be very lucky.
You know, Dato Ong, working with so many CEOs, I always hear that the higher you go, the more lonely you feel, right? Do you feel that when you became the CEO?
Not really, but of course, there's some information that you suddenly received quite late at night and all that. It's like, spoil my day only. You do have a lot of these things happen. And you learn to just accept it, and you another day. But I believe that information, because we're talking about, you can choose to be lonely, you can choose to you see, a lot of people say information is power, right? So a lot of people use that, withhold information, because then they have power. I know more than you because of certain things. But I'm a believer that you should share the information. Of course, some of them, unless it is P&C or whatever, the more information you share, the more people know. The more they know, the more they understand and each other. So I think that happily is the culture of OCBC nowadays, sharing a lot of information, always asking people around to share what they've heard. It is a good thing that OCBC inculcates. We always, when I was in the CEO, we always have a lot of management meetings, and we will always ask every division and country to share what's happened over the last month with the regulator, with business. So people share a lot of information and you learn from each other, understand each other better, the businesses. And it is not a lonely business because everybody wants to see you,
Okay.
The problem is you don't have enough time for yourself.
How do you handle the pressure?
You don't sleep so well. And you have to be honest, you have to give and take. I mean, there's no such thing as I have a work-life balance. Something will give. I think the biggest issue that the family faces is that there's a lot of time away. Because a lot of events happen over the week, weekends. So you feel that. So that's why I think everybody, if you have a chance, retire at 50.
Spend
60,
time with family.
Spend more time with family and still keep yourself busy. So pressure is something that we all have to learn. A bit of pressure is not too bad. Yeah, especially you can take pressure when you're younger, would be good. But I also don't believe that an organization should work their people too hard. And I'm a true believer of hybrid learning. Even though people may slacken a bit, that's a given, but trust them, and I think they value you.
They value the trust that you give.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I know you like gardening, right? Would gardening help you to how do you handle the pressure or when you're stressed? Is there any technique do you listen to music? Do you?
Over the last few years, I have cats. I have about 10 cats in my house.
Wow.
They are key distressor.
Okay. Okay. And would you say that's very important to find something that can distress you?
Yeah. I think importantly, everybody, whether you're a CEO or not a CEO, I think you should have some hobbies, inculcate other interests in all that. Because my son is a prime example. When he's stressed up, he reads, he likes art. So he goes into all this to distress. So I think we all need that lah. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. You know, Dato Ong, you had a very strong management team with you. You know, how did you assemble, how do you build these key leaders over the years?
In a sense, I think I was also blessed that OCBC, to a certain extent, they're able to retain a lot of their key talents. And I've often heard this shared by customers. They say, you know what, I deal with this so and so bank. The people keep changing one. But OC is always the same people. Then we always joke, it's boring, same old people, right? Then they know that the policies are more or less, they know the people understand their company. So in a sense, OC is not known as a bank that pays very well. But it's a bank that has got a strong culture where you either like it or you don't like it. So, but generally, it's a like it in a positive way lah. But it's evolving all the time. Yeah.
How do you sustain, right, 14 years, right, and your management committee? I'm sure there's one or two retire and switch and all. How do you sustain the collaboration between the management? How many in the management team?
We have about 20.
20. Wow. So how do you sustain it?
Some people do come and go. Some of them actually move into different positions.
Yeah.
Different leadership in a different division. So I'm always very happy that people are willing to be versatile. And I've got people who actually was not promoted like for 3 years, but they had the staying power, and eventually they got promoted. And after promotion, it's not once but twice.
Wow.
So things like this. So I use that always to encourage people to take on new challenges. In fact, I use one where there was we within OCBC Group, we have we know we are into all these mobile apps right nowadays. So you need all these people who can develop it well, and the best ones are people from China. Seriously, because mobile banking and all that started there. So we have a whole bunch of team. We recruited in Shenzhen, about 60, 70, and these are all people who are not from banks. They are from Alibaba, etc., etc. But we actually we need somebody who can so-called be their nanny, make sure that they're happy,
Yeah.
So actually, the person who volunteered to go there was one of our IT seniors. I think she had a chance to do something different, and she doesn't even speak Mandarin. She was willing to go, and she made a success. So I use that to always I use that email. I learned this from reading that this CEO from Singapore, he always sends email as a message to the staff, so that's how you connect because they don't sort of see you day to day.
Yeah, but email reach everyone. So this was something that you practice a lot?
I do that all the time. In fact, I use it. I use that as a secret weapon to reach out to everybody.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and share anything. I mean, something you read,
CSR,
something you did.
Yeah. Dato, Google say, right, one of the key thing of a high-performing team is psychological safety, right? And one thing you shared that you practice with your management team is open communication, right? That anything you want to share, you create that within the management team, encourage them to share openly. What would a second strategy be that you practice to cultivate this high performing team in your management team over the years?
I always try to tell everyone that when you deal with somebody that's difficult or whatever, you try to see the good in them, because everybody, when they don't get their way with somebody else, they just focus on the negative. But because I know some of them pretty well, some people say your tolerance level is very high. So I said no. Tolerance is all about knowing everybody, because today when we set KPI, it's balanced scorecard. It's not about just achieving a number. It's about how the person behaves, how the person can do certain things, and how the person contributes to the organization. So every time you dig deep over something, yes, nobody is perfect. There's an incident. It shines a bad light on the person. But don't forget that that person is also good in many, many other things, and will also contributed in some other way. I always think that we should always do that. And even leaders, we're very good to say that this person is lousy. And when politics is like that, everybody's all bad. It's not true, right?
I like that. So you encourage everyone to look the positive side.
Yeah. And over time, people see it, because at that point in time, people just and sometimes people want to say, oh, the person has failed in this. Let's remove him. But give him a chance. People will learn from the mistake. They'll recover from it. A lot of people, there are some of them have asked me to say, should I move on because of this incident? And it's not because I wanted to remove them, but because their bosses felt, were quite harsh with them.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, stay on. I think you go beyond this. And actually they actually succeed. So there's always a rebound. I made a lot of mistakes, along the way. A lot of bad loans. I trusted some companies. They didn't tell the truth and all that. So I still survive.
Which means that if you average it out, you see more good in people, and it pays off. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, in people and in business.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone to go up to a certain level, they would have a lot more hits than misses now. So remember that when they made some mistakes. But I think the one thing I will not really tolerate is integrity issue. Integrity can get worse the more power a person has. So that is something that I think that if a person has integrity issue, it will not be... Integrity is about, number one, financial integrity. That means we are bank. The other one is integrity dealing with people.
Yeah.
You don't want to say something to this guy and say it to another.
Yep.
And you play politics. I mean, there will always be a bit of politics and all that, but stay out from the politics, because you never know who's going to have the upper hand. Not doing it because you want to survive, but I think always be neutral, non-partisan.
Very nice. I'm curious, do the management team goes out, hang out together, eat together? Do you all have do things together? Do you do any?
I could do more of that. I think if I look back, I didn't do enough of this because I'm so tired because there are a lot of things that we have to do together. We huddle in meetings for hours and hours.
Yeah.
So after where I had, but I think nowadays, but seriously, I don't know whether everybody appreciates this lah.
Yeah. Some would just want to go back to their family.
I can tell you that all these so-called bonding, you will have people who are really into this, people who just don't like it. And then must also remember, it's not just they don't like it. Their family may not like it also, So I think I try to balance that.
Very nice. Thank you, Dato. We have come to the last part of this, just closing 3 questions that we ask all our guests. Right? The first one, who's one person that you admire the most and why? And I see you brought a book. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've always been fascinated by people who do a lot of things not for money. So the one that captured my imagination and my belief is actually Mother Teresa, who, and I read about her in this book called Something Beautiful for God. I'm going to lend it to you, but you must promise to return to me because
Something Beautiful
it's
for
no
God.
longer.
Can we show the nice.
The thing, some of you may not know about her because she died quite a number of years ago, but she was a Catholic nun that went to India to teach in schools.
Yeah.
And while she was having a holiday, that she received what they call a calling within a calling. So she's left her convent and went to the streets. And one of the things that she say, which a lot of people may not agree, is that there is a person lying in the street. He's going to be dead. Okay? Just leave him. He's going to die
anyway, yeah.
But Mother Teresa always feels that every one of us want to be loved and wanted. So even if the leper dies in somebody's arms, at least he died
feeling love.
So that's the most important thing. I can go very emotional.
Yeah, very nice. I like that. And I see that ties in back to how you operate as a leader as well, like in the sense that seeing the good in people, it's a choice, it's a conscious choice.
Yeah. The other one, since we are on here, is that I'm a big supporter of World Vision. Okay? I don't know whether you've heard of World Vision.
Yeah, of course.
It's a Christian organization. Yeah. So I attended a tea session recently.
In Gardens, right?
Gardens, yeah. Oh, you know,
Yeah.
Okay. So they are targeting to raise to try to get sponsorship for 1,000 girls in the run-up to the International Women's Day in October. So I've supported four children. And I was moved by this book. It says it's actually written, and it's a fantastic book. It's also lent to you. Okay, I need
what is
it back.
It called? He Walks?
Encounters with Jesus Christ in a Broken World. He said that actually this guy was the US president of World Vision, US. And he went with the wife to visit all the places that World Vision helps. And he used all kinds of things to capture a lot of things. One of the things I feel is so important to share is that, this guy, before he joined World Vision, he was a president of a company that provides all the china, the cutlery for the White House. So he's having a good life, And when he decided to join World Vision, he had to cross the continent from one place to another, cross the whole US continent. And a lot of people say, why you want to give up? And he uses one example, which actually is so way to explain it. He said that when they went to this Africa, they bought footballs, those brand new footballs.
Yeah.
To give to the children there because they can learn to play football and all that. So when they went to this village, these boys were playing football with those, they tie something and kick it around.
Yeah.
And he wanted to give the football to the kid, The kid hesitated, because the kid was happy with what they have. They didn't realize that this football is so much better.
Yeah.
So he says it's just like everybody, They think that what they have is so great. But So he says when he took the job, it was so much better than what he was doing.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we will paste the World Vision donation
Yeah.
link there. And we will,
Yeah.
inspired by you, our podcast will also go and sponsor One Girl
Great.
immediately. Dato Ong, the final question will be, what are 3 advice would you give someone in their late 20s, early 30s that is climbing the corporate ladder?
I would say most important is learn to pace yourself.
Pace yourself,
Yeah. And be humble.
humble,
And then I think be charitable.
charitable.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think these are like cliches.
Nice. I like this. The first one, pacing yourself, somehow relate back to our key theme, staying power a bit. Staying, right?
Because you don't want to peak too early, you know. I know of someone who peaked very early and then became restless, and then from a professional became a business owner and tried so many things and then end up getting into all kinds of debts. So he was a brilliant person. But when you peak too early, like age 30 something, and then what do you do? What do you aim? What else you aim for?
Yeah.
So I think human beings are never satisfied. It's always like, every time. And this Tan Sri Azman, whom is also one of my
M-Bank.
M-Bank, I work very closely with him in my capacity as a council member of AICB. He always say, when you climb the mountain, make sure you don't keep on climbing. Stop for a while, enjoy the view, and rest. So in life, it's like that. You number one, nowadays, don't be so impatient to call yourself a CEO.
Nice. Yeah. I like that.
CEO is something that is a title. But acting like a CEO is more important.
And that's the hardest part. Huh?
Yeah.
And the second one is be humble. And third one, do charity.
Yeah. Because I think along the way, charity is something that is a habit. If you don't have that habit, just like everything else in life, if you don't have a habit of exercise, you will never do it. So to charity also is so difficult to give the first time. But after a while, you freely give, and then it doesn't mean anything to you.
Start small and do it. The last question I have for you is, what are 3, quite similar to number 2, but what if you can only choose 3 traits, right? What do you think 3 alpha traits do you think we need in our life to be successful in our life?
People will say passion. I think it is important. You must have interest in what you're doing. Then I think I would say that if you are working in a big organization, I think start small and volunteer. The willingness to put up your hands. And if you're lucky to be picked, do not hesitate. I found that, when I volunteer for things, number one, people do have trust. That's why they ask you to do something. And you have a chance to prove yourself. So it is not something that comes easy for a lot of people. People are just always like, even you ask question, right? Simple thing like, audience, anything, nobody likes to. And read widely. It's not an alpha trait or whatever, but it is something that I've always tell a lot of people, I'm not smart. I learn a lot from books, ideas, and it sort of triggers you into action. When you read something and you're very passionate about, it really makes you do things. This book, I just happened to walk around in Wan Utama, and I was waiting for my wife who went into the supermarket, and I stumbled into Book Access, and I came into this book. I liked the book so much that I bought about 60 books.
Wow.
I bought all of that is available and I give to people.
Okay.
But I think
So
you can give
first
it.
few left. First few left. Nice. So the first one I hear, first trait that we should have or start to cultivate if we don't is passionate, right? The second one I heard is be eager, right? One trait or be eager or volunteer, right? I'll take initiative rather, right? Initiative, a trait of being initiative. And the third one is learning, right? Be curious to learn and right. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dato Ong. I didn't put this in the question. One of the things that we get our guests to do, I'm not sure whether you heard the last part, is we get our guests to howl like a wolf because we are the Alpha Wolf podcast. So the wolf howl, right, is to show strength, to show unity, to call his packs to come together. So I will start first and then we'll invite you to give your best wolf howl. Okay? Ooh, not the best, but yeah. Let's see you can beat that. Yes. Oh. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.